in many ways, they sort of make the U.S. their bitch. They make the U.S. their foreign policy enforcer, and that's very well known. People, I think this is all just out in the open now. Many of us who've known this and talked about it for a long time, like you're not supposed to talk about this, but everybody kind of knows it now. So that's what's going on, is that you have people like this, what's called right wing. I don't know that it actually is, but this right wing view of the Likud party, which is that there doesn't need to be any peace deals. All of the Hamas that was actually set up by the Likud and the Israeli right was to be the sort of foil to the PLO and to keep it destabilized. That was all on purpose. That was all intentional. By the way, Victor Ostrovsky mentions this in his book, Strategy of Deception, or Other Side of Deception, excuse me, that this destabilization was put there on purpose. And the same with Syria. This is why there's support for ISIS and Al Qaeda in these surrounding Israel countries like Syria. It's not always a strategy of supporting the terror networks. Sometimes they've favored things like a Christian monarchy. They wanted a Christian Coptic government in Egypt at one point because they thought that might be more amenable. And at one point, Mossad supported the Christian phalangists, who are Catholics, in their Maronites in Lebanon to the north. So it really just depends on what they think is the best strategy for Israel at the time. But long story short, this was all about the 7 nations plan that General Wesley Clark talked about many years ago, that in the Middle East, the strategy would be to take down and sort of do regime changes in all the nations surrounding Israel. And Iran is really the last one. So out of those, what's lacking is the government that they'd like in Iran. And by the way, I'm not pro-Iran. I think Iran's crazy. The Shia religion is an insane cult. I do agree with that. But we're always left out key details of the story, like the fact that British intelligence and the CIA brought not just the Shah to power to take out Mossadegh in 1953 in Operation Ajax, but they also supported the Ayatollah and helped him come to power. And even in 1979, in the Iranian Revolution, the CIA had a backdoor channel where they were regularly discussing and talking to the Ayatollah, mainly because they were saying, all right, we'll let you come into power. It's not a huge deal. But the main thing is we want to control and take care of the oil. So as long as there was oil deals in the background that were made, they don't really care about what religious cult leader is running the country.
Yeah, they pretend to care about human rights, and they clicked up with Saudi Arabia and all these other places. So Brzezinski wrote that it was the threat to hegemony was the collaboration between Iran, Russia, and China. We've had a few military analysts come on and discuss that in the last month or so. There's the theory of the tail wagging the dog, but there's the inverse, that Israel is a military outpost for the deep state, helping keep that area of the world divided and conquered. And the US could shut down the weapons, the aid, etc. overnight, and they would be impotent at that point. So it's the US just employing this divide and conquer deep state strategy in the Middle East. Do you concur with that, or do you think that Israel has got more control over the US government?
It seems like in foreign policy, there is a specific alignment and assurance that is there in the Middle East that Israel has the say-so. Maybe not in everything else, because, for example, you did have, for example, during the Biden administration, a lot of money being given to Iran. But even that could be smoke and mirrors, because as I said, Victor Ostrovsky mentions 2 different programs where Israel had backdoor deals to arm Iran. So why would they be arming their enemy? There could be many reasons for that. But point being, a lot of this stuff is smoke and mirrors. A lot of this stuff is fake, but there's definitely I mean, the U.S. never does what Israel doesn't want to do in the Middle East, as far as I'm aware. There could be some instances where, well, I take that back. I think, again, I'm not pro-Democrat, but I think, you know, Netanyahu asked basically all the previous presidents to bomb Iran or to do some kind of, and they didn't. So, you know, Clinton didn't, and probably the Lewinsky thing had to do with some degree of blackmail on the part of Israel as well. And in fact, that's even come out in the Times of Israel that people think there was a deal made between over Jonathan Pollard and the blackmail of Clinton through Lewinsky. I don't know if that's verified. It's just a thesis that came out in Israeli news, Times of Israel, about those two cases. So in the case of foreign policy, it seems like we always do what Israel wants. For the most part, there may be some exceptions, like with these Democrats who, for whatever reason, I don't think they're principled. I just think that there's probably deals that are going on, money deals, arms deals, right? For example, bombing Iran might have hurt somebody in the military-industrial complex's deals with Iran. so maybe that's why they didn't want to do it. I don't know, or they thought it would just be politically unfeasible for the Democratic base. But definitely it seems like Israel has the skill set and the ability to get done what they want, even if it takes them a long time. And by the way, I'm not pro-Iran, and I'm also critical of the Israeli government. So I don't really have a dog in this fight, other than that, you know, it'd be nice for our country to be not running a giant empire and not beholden to foreign powers and foreign espionage.
Jay, are you saying that not bombing the poorest countries in the world and killing millions of people and calling it collateral damage is something that shouldn't be being done? Because Iran chants death to America, death to Israel, all this stuff. Iran's minutes away from having nuclear weapons. We played the Netanyahu montage going back decades with his drawing of the bomb, and oh God, how can it's just as ridiculous as what they tell us about Epstein now. They spew the same lies down our throats. But what shocked me is a lot of people who woke up to the Saddam Hussein has got weapons of mass destruction lie are touting the very same lie to bomb Israel. Let's save the Israeli people. Regime change. If they were bombing the crap out of the UK, I wouldn't be dancing in the streets saying, yeah, let's get rid of Starmer. I'd be signing up to fight whoever's bombing me. So anyway, thanks for the super chat, Alex. Do you think they should have said it was classified instead of denying the existence of it, of the list, etc.? Maybe the timing of releasing the truth is too soon.
That's a good question. I can't fathom unless there's just a network of control that's still embedded, that has the ability to just say, you're going to do what we say. I can't fathom them. I mean, I guess it could be you're super incompetent, but I just think that this is just lying, and that makes more sense. So I don't know if they should have argued it. I mean, Alex is saying stuff like, well, you know, if they let all this out, it would collapse the government. I don't buy that. I mean, so we're supposed to just let total degenerate psychopaths go free because they're too big to fail. I mean, this was the argument in 2008 that the housing collapse was necessary and we had to bail out the banks because they're too big to fail. So this is just like a parasitical system propping itself up over and over and over. And again, another big Trump fail that nobody's talking about for the most part, except for people who are into Bitcoin, is the $5 trillion debt ceiling that is part of this big, beautiful bill. I mean, this is massively going to further destroy the dollar. So better be looking into Bitcoin, in my opinion.
Yeah, I've been watching the dollar slip and slide. So what do you think then about Elon's recent tweets and this political party he is creating.
It's hard to know like whether this is like motivated out of anger and resentment. I mean, I don't really care either way whether Elon creates a party or not. Obviously we've got two, bullheaded elites that were trying to work together, and that relationship went sour. I have to say that I think on the big beautiful bill points, it's very nuanced, because this is sort of what led to this fissure between Trump and Elon. And they both have points here, actually. So it's partly true that I think Elon is mad about the bill because it doesn't, if I recall, it doesn't favor a lot of the Tesla electronic vehicle stuff. And he was counting on some of these government contracts or whatever. So some of that got cut. But also he's correct that you can't fix the money system and the money supply problem with cutting government spending, because that's not the root of the problem. That's an effect of the problem. The root of the problem is Keynesian economics and Fabian socialist economics and the idea of fiat money. So I think Elon kind of has a little bit of an idea of that. Ironically, if you go back several months, it seemed like Trump had a better understanding of that, which is weird, because Trump was the one saying, we got to fix the Federal Reserve. We got to fix this. And then now we got to raise the debt ceiling $5 trillion. And so now it's sort of like Elon's right on this point that cutting spending and Doge, that's fine. But like cutting spending isn't the problem when you have a leaky system that's leaking the money and stored value of the people over time through fiat currency. That's the real problem. So it goes back and forth, I guess, between both of them having good points and having bad points. And then it ends up, I guess, in this big ego battle. And I think Elon's thinking that this will be a counterbalance to the uniparty or to the GOP. But I mean, my concern there would be that even though it might sound good, this might just turn into another kind of, I mean, the Libertarian Party was pretty much a big failure. It still doesn't really do anything. It doesn't even really take votes away, except that perhaps in the last election, Trump thought that the Libertarian Party might be worth trying to appeal to, because he did go and speak to the Libertarian Party, and that helped him, I'm sure, in some small measure. So maybe Elon thinks that this is just a way to kind of get back at, or maybe he really believes that he could create a third party. I don't know, but third parties just never have done very well in the US.
Didn't Elon get frustrated because a lot of the Doge savings went to the military industrial complex and the Pentagon?
Yeah, my only concern there, and that's true, is that what they might want to do with Elon and Doge is like they demonstrate that, look how corrupt the existing system is. Don't you want AI and tech to run everything? Now, I know that Doge itself is just a bunch of like young computer auditor people, coders or whatever, but the idea might be, hey, why don't we have a extremely efficient technocratic system running everything, and then you won't be susceptible to the failures of the previous human or organized system and the old legacy system. I'm just worried that they're going to put forward a technocratic solution that might be worse than what we have now.
David Icke's been warning about all this, and he got lambasted when he was predicting this all this months ago. And a lot of it's come to fruition. So JP wants to know, hi, Jay. We know Jeffrey was knocked off and Prince Andrew should be locked up. How do you see this situation playing out?
Well, I mean, like we've been saying, like I didn't expect them to be this brazen in the cover-up. But they basically have done an even more extreme level of cover-up than when they claimed Epstein killed himself. So now it's like, I mean, if this is the case, then what's the basis for Ghislaine Maxwell to be like, why could she just go free? I mean, like, I don't, this is so insane and so just like ridiculous. I'm even like, I don't know what to make it. I'm starting to think that like the empire's about to strike back. Like we had this impression of maybe small victories with Trump in the last year or so. Whatever he's been in for a year. So we've been led to think that things are getting better. We're going to have a golden age, all this kind of stuff. Maybe things will I just don't see how it can if we've not fixed the real problem, which is the central bank control of the economy and the dollars being destroyed. Like, how is this? It's not going to work. Like, it's like putting Band-Aids on when you like getting your arm cut off and you put a Band-Aid on it. It's like, this is crazy. So I think we're going to see probably the Empire strike back we might have a new bio situation. We might have an economic collapse. I also think they're really pushing for the ramping up of the racial stuff. So I think they really want to push another summer of love / race war. I think that's what's coming.
What about hyperinflation to devalue the debt and get them out of that?
Well, that's what this $5 trillion debt ceiling, raising the debt, is. So this is bigger than I think even anything that Biden pushed, and it's way bigger than what they pushed during COVID. And I mean, you're not in the U.S., but for us in the U.S., like 2020 to 2024, like the price of just average stuff went crazy. Not everything, but it seems like really certain staples. For example, eggs are like 5 times what they used to be a few years ago, like 4 years ago. Bacon, steak, like these staple foods are extremely expensive. Gas got to be really high, I think, but under Trump, it has come down a little bit. But like a lot of a lot of the necessities, for example, when you go out to eat, even before COVID, like you could go out to eat with your wife and you might spend maybe 60, 70 bucks at a decent place. Pretty much every meal now is $100. People were talking about the other day, they ordered pizza and they ordered 3 pizzas for a party and it was like 150 bucks. So like the inflation is actually hitting the middle and lower class people's the hardest because their dollar is like just dying. And another $5 trillion, this is the highest like debt raising we've ever had. I mean, this is going to be like even worse than what Biden did during COVID with stimulus and all this nonsense. Like, you don't actually get stimulus. This is what people don't understand. Like when the government just hands out checks for 1,000, 2,000, and Trump did it too, by the way. You pay for this later down the road with your money being devalued in the next 3, 4, 5 years. And it goes, and it was crazy levels, like 10 or 20% added to the money supply during COVID, which just massively devalued the dollar. So it's going to get even worse. And that's why Bitcoin is so important.
Yeah, it's a sneaky way of doing it, folks. You kiss your pensions goodbye, kiss your savings goodbye. All of a sudden, your currency's worthless. You're going around with wheelbarrows full of cash. And by the time you get anywhere, it's worth a fraction of what when you left your house. All right, Vinny, thank you for the super chat. Jay, are the Knights Templar Freemasons gearing up for a final crusade, possibly looking for the Ark of the Covenant in Iran? Well, that wins the most esoteric question of the day award. Thanks, Vinny.
Yeah, I've never heard of the theory that the Ark of Covenant's in Iran. I don't know about that, but I think that the U.S. deep state and Israel utilize the idea of a crusade against the Muslim world for psyops and social engineering purposes. But I don't know that has to do necessarily with the Knights Templar. I don't think the medieval Knights Templars really exist anymore like they did back in the day. I don't think Freemasonry has as much power as it used to. There are still a lot of high-level politicians and elites that are members of the Masonic order, but yeah, I think that really a lot of this is out in the open. They don't have to hide anymore. So it's not like we're worried about, is there some secret group? Like, we don't have to worry about this. Like, we all now know that we're run by central bankers and corporate elites, and that's who's pulling the strings, and they're out in the open. It's the, you know, what Blavatsky talked about, which is like the unveiling of the secret hierarchy. It's not a bunch of mystical things. It's actually just intelligence operatives and bureaucrats. And I mean, there are some people that run cults that are involved in